Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, Sunday, the 24th of October, 2021. As I've told you, we will be having a guest today and is right here in the studio with us. And that is none other than Professor Femi Olufunmilade. For those of you that have been on our Facebook and, of course, on YouTube as well, we've made a sort of intro that has been posted right on there. Professor Femi Olufunmilade is a political scientist and, of course, currently pioneer director, Buratai Center for Contemporary Security Affairs, Igbinedon University, Okada, Edo State. He is already here in the studio with us. You are most welcome to the program, sir. You are welcome.
Thank you. Professor. Good evening. It's my delight to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we are right on here today. And of course, we will be talking about Yoruba Nation, which I believe you are fully in support of. But before we go into that, you are a political scientist and someone that is vast when it comes to international securities, peace and conflict resolution. If you look back, sir, with your experience about Nigeria, 10 years ago, do we know, is there any sort of indication, if we talk about maybe 10, 20 years back, that Nigeria will get to where it is today? Was there any indication?
In terms of what precisely?
Yeah, it will be
where Nigeria is it economically, politically, in terms of its security, or its cultural values as they were now, either to and as they are now?
I think it would just be like a sort of an overview when we talk about security, of course, which we are having challenges with today. Talking about economics also, which is a sort of area of concern. And I think everything still boils down to changes in our cultural values. So it's just like, if you can take it as a general overview of what Nigeria is today.
Okay, well, obviously, Nigeria of today is in some respects is quite different from the Nigeria that we used to know. In terms of security, Nigeria today can be likened to a country that has been perpetually entangled in low intensity warfare. In the Northeast, for over 10 years now, there has been no respite from Boko Haram terrorism. And in the Northwest, effectively, beginning from the Buhari era, present Buhari era, the order of the day has been high-level terrorism that is better referred to, going by government's preference, as banditry. And across the country, nowhere is safe. So we can say without exaggeration that Nigeria, maybe apart from the Civil War era, there has not been any time in the history of this country that so much blood has been shed and with no respite in view or in sight than now. So obviously, we've never had it this bad. And economically, if I may talk about the economy, the country today is in serious economic, is in dire straits economically. The budget of the country is largely financed today by foreign loans. The 2021 budget, as you may know, 98% of revenue went into debt servicing, which then means that both capital and recurrent expenditures were financed basically by a loan. And 2022 is likely to be worse in terms of loan dependency, because the revenues regime have not been anything better, but more loans are being contracted here and there. So I don't think we have seen anything as bad as this at any time in terms of security, in terms of economic management. So for Nigerians, and in terms of when you talk of national cohesion, it is so terrible under the present administration that everybody wants to go their separate ways. They, as Shino Achibe will say, things fall apart and the center cannot hold. The center in Nigeria is not holding anymore. In the east, you hear of Biafra. In the southwest, people are talking of Oduduwa nation. In the Niger Delta, there has been recurring militancy, and a lot of regrouping is ongoing. And in the north, you have the Islamists who are talking of having their own theocracy, and they come under diverse shade, whether you want to talk of the Shiite group, or you want to talk of the Boko Haram, or you want to talk of ISWAP. So the country today is more divided and polarized than ever.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Now, as someone also who has studied
I hope
the
you can
rights,
hear me.
yes, I'm hearing you clear. I'm hearing you clearly. Now, as someone who has also studied
Okay.
China, especially the rise of China, I think there are some couple of things that we can relate with between Nigeria and China when it comes to population, and also the level of poverty, which was, the case with China before its rise to become a major player in the world. Uh, from your view, sir, do you think is the problem in Nigeria that made us not to be able to harness that human resources in population in order to move the country to greater heights? Why is that massive population becoming like a curse rather than like a blessing to us, like they have it in China?
Well, China has changed the narrative when it comes to development strategy. Hitherto, the large population viewed as a curse, and the road to economic transformation has been thrown. But China, with about 1.4 billion population, has changed that narrative completely by transforming its humongous population into the largest workforce, the largest industrial force in the world. And it's the way they did it is quite simple. China decided to look inward in terms of the basic needs of its people. And those basic needs include food, clothing, and shelter. It ensured that it deployed its population into agriculture, as to be able to feed the whole country adequately and to have room for exports. Not only that, in terms of clothing, it also ensured that a lot of its people in their millions were equipped with skills for textiles, cloth making, shoe making, and all kinds of ornaments, such that it got to a point where China became the preferred destination for those who want to buy high quality but affordable clothing materials. And in terms of shelter too, you discover that when you talk of urban renewal or even rural transformation in terms of human habitation, China is also has set a very great and unparalleled example, because the rate at which new houses for people to dwell in the urban centers and the rural areas were, executed is unparalleled anywhere. We are talking of millions upon millions of new dwellings, such that China experienced what was hitherto unheard of, a housing glut, a situation where there are more houses than people available to dwell in them. The paradox of that is on Africa, because here in Africa, the preachment till date is that you are overpopulated. They bring in all kinds of Planned Parenthood, Federation of Nigeria, Society for Family Health, and all kinds of international NGOs in Africa funded to ensure that our population is curbed, and that they are made to believe will also help to improve our economy, because there will be less mouths to feed and all that. But the China example is that the huge population is actually a huge blessing, because you discover that what you mean, rather than make use of machine-intensive production processes, they embark on labor-intensive processes. And when you talk about handmade suit, handmade shoes, handmade bags, handmade toys, from alone, what China earns in a year is more than what Nigeria earns from oil, just from. So the template for other developing nations or underdeveloped nations to emulate, particularly Nigeria, if we can follow the Chinese model, most of the problems we are facing today will disappear. The Boko Haram recruits its members largely from the unending and increasing pool of Almajiris in the northern part of the country. And by this, we refer to kids that were born and were not given any form of parental care or love when they could hardly knew, by the time they could hardly know anything different from their left and their right, they are sent to one Islamic teacher somewhere who is known to have such kids in their dozens, if not in their hundreds. And the expectation is he will train them to become learned people in Islam, but in reality, he turns them to a begging force. You see them, you will give them a bowl, and they will be there on the streets, in the rain, in the sun, and they grow up without the comfort of a proper home without a proper parental upbringing, without love, and they all they grew up experiencing is the harshness of the world, the harshness of the society, and so they are psychologically and mentally attuned to being mobilized to wreak any form of havoc. And the brand of Islam they are tutored in invariably emphasizes the discrimination, seeing other people as infidels, glorifying violence, that when you kill a fellow human being who don't share your religious viewpoint, you are actually rendering service to God. It's because these children are not seen as an asset. If they are seen as an asset, as is the case in China, where their population is 6 times more than our own, then they would have been taken to some technical schools where they will learn skills to get them productive, to produce clothes, to produce shoes, to produce bags, to produce other consumer goods that will not only hand them a living, but that will enable them to contribute to the economic growth and development of their country. So that is a juxtaposition that if we want to change the narrative, will require that we quickly think of how we can begin to see our huge population as a blessing rather than as a curse. It is a curse right now because those in power, they are not visionary, or they are not responsible enough to make sure that this abundant human resources is upgraded by way of education, by way of vocation, and by way of enabling them to keep busy by producing one thing or the other. Another thing that we can learn from China is the fact that China is very, very hard on corruption. In our own part of the world, the leadership cadre is dominated by the corrupt, as this, as that, who have stolen money and who engage in conspicuous consumption and who are oppressive. The way they display their wealth, you see their huge convoy, and when they are on the road, they can cause accidents. They do cause accidents. They are policemen and other armed guards who, if there is a hold up, they will come down and unleash violence on innocent commuters. This is what we have because it appears that corruption has become the guiding ideology of state. But in China, the penalty for corruption, as you should know, is death. And it doesn't matter what level you have attained in life. You could be, a governor, you could be a provincial governor, you could be anything, you could be a minister. No matter how high ranking, if you are caught, whether in the public or the private sector, you get killed. So that is another lesson we have learned from China, because the human beings there are not different in any material form from the human beings in Nigeria. If their environment is loose in terms of public accountability and management of public resources, a lot of people will steal. And the fact that they do get some people killed for stealing tells you that people have the propensity to steal there, even when the penalty is death. How much less, how much more would they indulge in that when they know that they can even get away with it and the society will praise and glorify them? So if we want to change the narrative here, that is one of the things we need to look into. And we as citizens should also change our orientation and call a spade a spade. We should not be blind to the realities of how these people make their money, the people that we queue behind when election comes, because we know and we gossip about it in our closet that he made his money when he was a commissioner, or he made his money when he was appointed a minister, or he made his money when he was a governor. And so on. He made his money when he was working in a bank, that failed bank, that collapsed bank. He was one of those who made that happen, and he bolted with the deposits of so many hardworking citizens. So if we want a better country like China, then we need to reorientate our people. We should adopt the orientation of our phobias that they will say, so that is one thing we need to look at. A very rich man in China can, in spite of his wealth, you see him riding a scooter or riding a bicycle, living in a modest house. He doesn't make a show of his wealth to demoralize those who are less privileged. So that moral fault is also high level of public morality. It's also part of the mix of factors that change the narrative for China. And if we want to be like China, we also should think of adjusting our values and glorify only values that are positive.
That's right. Thank you very much for that. Coming right into what you've just explained, people or leaders like Chief Obafemi Awolowo believe that he believes in maybe we would not straight away say he's a nationalist to the core, but he believes that if the assets, that is the resources, human resources and natural and mineral resources of Nigeria is properly harnessed, that Nigeria could be the next giant coming out of Africa. And from what you have also explained, it would be that if we properly harness what we have and we make our leaders accountable, then Nigeria would be better than it is today. However, the next question, sir, is there a clash of cultural values? Because when we talk about Nigeria, we are talking about many nationalities ethnic languages are crossing the 200 boundaries. So, and we believe that each nationality have their own values. What we may see as value, maybe among the Yorubas, might be different. Among the Hausas, what we see as values among the Hausas might be different from that which is the values among the Igbo. Do you think we're still comparing, looking at Nigeria and China? Do you think that the numbers of nationalities, ethnic nationalities that we have in Nigeria with different cultural values and the conflict between those values, do you think that it's actually is part of what caused the issue happening in Nigeria, which might be different from the challenges that was faced by China, where China has maybe also more than one ethnic nationality, but they have a single Chinese language. They may have other languages for those nationalities, but in China, they have China language, which is the main language. But in Nigeria, we don't have any Nigerian language among the languages of all the nationalities. So we are using a foreign language. But the question is this conflict with cultural values of those nationalities part of the problem or a factor in what brought Nigeria to where it is today?
Let me answer your question by saying right away that nothing is a problem in itself if you take adequate care of it. There are different types of nations, or there are different types of countries. Some countries are fairly homogeneous in terms of their what I'll call their ethnic constitution. Some are heterogeneous in terms of their ethnic constitution or makeup. A country like China tilts more on the homogeneous side. Mandarin is understood by most Chinese people, but then there are Chinese minorities like the Uyghurs, like the Tibetans, and the Mongoloid section. There are so many other, but somehow the China as it's fairly largely homogeneous. The dominant group, are those who speak Mandarin. And the fact that they also have an ideological dimension through the effort of the Communist Party to suppress what may be the rough edges of their diversity has helped them tremendously, because when you imbibe the communist creed, your ethnicity recedes into the background. You are a comrade. You are a Maoist. And whether you are a Tibetan or you are an Uyghur, recedes into the background. But there are countries that are also diverse and big, and even bigger than Nigeria, that are doing quite well in the management of their diversity. And a good example is India, where there is diversity along ethnic lines. You have the Bengalis, you have the Hindustanis, and the rest of them. And you also have diversity in terms of religion. Some people in India are Hindus, some are Muslims, some are Buddhists, some are Christians. But to a very large extent, they have successfully managed to move on and get along with each other in spite of the diversity. It's a function of what I would call a responsible leadership. But then coming to Nigeria, we are hugely diverse, but it's not the reason why we have been having tensions. We have been having tensions because we have not been privileged to have very good leaders who see this diversity as an asset. We rather have been cursed with leaders who extort or exploit the fault lines, the fact of our diversity to promote their own lust for power. It's not limited to any section of the country. You talk of the North, you have those who see themselves as superior human beings, the Fulani, who have indoctrinated the vast majority of the illiterate voters in the North to see other Nigerians as subhuman, infidels. And as such, when it comes to voting, the votes must be cast for one of their kind alone. And that attitude is carried into governance, whereby presently today, we've never had it so bad. You have a president that discriminates against other Nigerians, the way by his appointments, if the words coming out of his mouth. He once said, President Buhari once said that those who gave him 5%, you don't expect to get the same kind of attention under his government as those who gave him so much more. He's the same president who, when the people in Benue, when they were under the assault of armed herdsmen, went on an SOS to Aso Rock, because he's a Fulani himself, and he will tell you that he used to be a heads boy himself. His sympathy, obviously, is with the herdsmen. So he said, I beg you in the name of God, please accommodate your fellow countrymen. And despite the fact that in a place like Agatu, people were murdered by the armed Fulani, what do we call them? They prefer to call them bandits. Till date, we never heard of a single arrest nor prosecution. And other sections of the country, self-preservation is the first law of nature. Took a cue from the experience of the people of Benue, and they realized that unless they find a way to protect themselves, they would too. Because the same people that unleashed mayhem in Benue were also roving around their communities, destroying farmlands with herds of cattle, raping women, kidnapping, killing, maiming, and that provided a fertile ground for ethnic militancy, ethnic agitation, nationality agitation. You will see that the root cause is leadership. We have a leader that doesn't see himself as a leader of all, but sees himself first and second and third as a champion. That is not the type of leader that can let you see the blessings of diversity or see the positive side of having diversity and living in a diverse country. So it is not the diversity that is the problem, but the leadership. And even elsewhere in Africa, where there is a higher level of homogeneity, the story has not been much different, because the leadership too is still self-serving, myopic. And that is why when you think of, to mention a success story, an African success story, is so difficult. You can hardly count 3. By the time you talk about maybe Botswana, economically, Rwanda, how they've been able to pick up after the genocide, you don't know what next to say. Is it South Africa? So after that, which other country? And we are talking of 54 African nations. is really a tragedy. It's really sad. So, having made that point about leadership being the problem, principally, we can also say, well, it's not really easy to govern a country where there is a sharp clash of values. Samuel Huntington, an American political scientist, in 1996 published a book titled The Clash of Civilizations. That book was published to forecast what the global landscape will be in terms of peace and security and harmony post the Cold War. You know, the Cold War effectively ended with the breakup of Soviet Union, the disintegration of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, USSR, in 1991. And then, you know, the Cold War was marked by ideological contestation between the Western and the Eastern blocs, or if you prefer, the communist, socialist bloc and the capitalist bloc. And so there was excitement as to what will now follow. Are we going to enjoy a world of tranquility where there will be no problem of armed contest, where there will be no proxy wars, etc., etc.? So Huntington then conducted his research and predicted that the next basis for conflictual dichotomy in the world will be religion, you know, and that is versus Western liberal Christian outlook. And to a great extent, he has been proved to be right, because in the post-Cold War era, when it was a celebration in the West that a unipolar order has come, capitalism, liberalism, westernization have triumphed over communism and over any form of totalitarianism. The counterforce soon emerged with the emergence of major non-state actors in the international arena, particularly Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda emerged, led by Osama bin Laden, to challenge the Western hegemony, and with the objective of a global campaign and institutionalization of Islamic order. They want a caliphate. They want a world where Islam in its orthodoxy will be the ground norm. And they found a firm root in Afghanistan. And from there, they were trying to penetrate, establishing cells in various countries of the world, including Western nations. And they radically challenged the United States and its Western advocacy, as it were. A democratic world run by capitalist system where individual freedom is paramount, etc., etc. They came to challenge that. And that has defined the trend in the world. A lot of, in terms of peace and security, you discover that the influence of the Islamists are found in virtually all continents of the world. In US, it reached a crescendo with the September 11, 2001 attack. You have had series of terrorist attacks on the platform of political Islam in France. You remember the Charlie Hebdo newspaper house bombing?
Sure.
Everywhere. And in Africa, you have the Al-Shabaab. In Egypt, you have Islamic Brotherhood. In Algeria, you have the Islamic Salvation Front. In Nigeria, you have Boko Haram that has spread to other parts of the country. Then you have the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, and then lately Islamic State of the West African province. So there is clash of civilization, no doubt. That is the new defining calculus in global power play. And Nigeria has not been exempted from that. The northern part of the country, the Islamic North, has had a flourishing theocracy before Lord Lugard decided to carve a nation that includes them and the liberal section of what is today known as Nigeria. And that, right from the time of colonial rule, has influenced a lot of things. Even the kind of law that the colonialists introduced and institutionalized in the North took cognizance of the fact that there had been a theocracy before they got there. What is called the penal code is just a reformed form of the Sharia. And what obtains in the southern part of the country is different. We are not using the same legal system. They differ. And our outlook to life as a people we differ. And that has influenced us negatively because we are always engaged in this accusation of trying to Islamize, trying to do this or that. Why should Islamic inscriptions be on our currency? Why should it be on the emblem of Nigerian army? Why should we have Sharia being introduced in some northern states when our constitution is supposed to be secular, and so on and so forth? So this have created a lot of tension and have sharpened our sense of what I would say, sense of not being the same. So it's a huge problem. And if we want to maintain one country, we have got to find accommodation for this diversity such that each group will be able to flourish and exist and live according to its own worldview, its own beliefs, its own aspirations without encumbrances in the context of one worldview trying to dominate the other or suppress the other. That is what we've been having. That is, and it has not really helped us. Fact is that the leadership question has made the other one to be difficult to manage. If the leadership, we have been getting the leadership right, this other side of our problem would have been better managed, and we probably would have had a more stable and prosperous country.
Right. Thank you very much for that. That clear, concise, and expansive explanation. Uh, where we are today, um, just like you've mentioned earlier, we've got to a point where the nationalities in Nigeria are now calling for, or they're agitating for, either the restructuring of the country, or even some saying that no, we don't even want to have anything to do with Nigeria again. We just want to be out of the country. That is where we are at the moment. And we'll be going deep into that of the Yoruba nation. But before then, I just want to ask that at the point we are in now, is it possible to still arrest the situation and make people to leave those agitation?
Well, I I don't. Well, the way I want to put it is, um, no matter how far you've gone in a conflict, resolution is possible.
Yeah.
It depends on leadership still. When Nnamdi Kanu was kidnapped and returned to Nigeria, I did a video that went viral, and I said, arresting him is not going to be a solution to the crisis in the southeastern part of the country. There are many young people who believe in Nnamdi Kanu's brand of Biafra, and they are likely to continue with the struggle even in his absence, even if he's killed. And I think that I have been proved right. It's not that I'm a prophet. It's not that I am privileged to know the modus operandi of IPOB, but I simply took my cue from the fact that I have observed the activities over time by reading newspapers, by following the social media, etc. And I've been highly surprised and intrigued by the large following he enjoys in that part of the country, home and abroad. And that was why I could predict that just picking up this individual alone might not be the solution to the IPOB challenge. And that has been proved right. If we want, I also mentioned Sunday Igboho, that I didn't know that a few days later, Sunday Igboho will be arrested in Benin Republic. And his arrest, has it ended the agitation for Yoruba nation? I'm a Yoruba man. I live among my people, and I can tell you the people are even a lot more angry. People are angrier, So is there the political will to forge harmony? That should be the question. And those to answer that question are those in the corridors of power. If they want the country to become harmonious, to return to the path of peace, the onus is on them to do the needful. You cannot expect peace where you say IPOB is a terrorist organization and the herdsmen or the so-called bandits that have shot down a military jet and killed scores upon scores of soldiers, you call them bandits. It doesn't add up. And people are not fools. When you wield power like an oppressor, you only adding people to find their own salvation in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
So the choice is with you as a leader to decide what type of people do you want to lead. And unhappy people who are busy exploring how to find their own freedom from your stranglehold, or a happy people that would want to continue to live together. But the leadership we have presently, unfortunately, is a leadership that believes so much in high-handedness, in that when you have power, you are a god, and that power can do anything. It's not a leadership that believes in promoting harmony or giving people opportunity to have a sense of belonging at all. This government came into power on the promise of restructuring, and is the core element of the APC manifesto, the party that brought the president to power. But by the time he got into power, he jettisoned the restructuring agenda. And though if he had embraced it, if he had made some efforts to look into it and allow some things to be done, we would not have had so much polarity in the country today. The level of, disharmony wouldn't have been what it is. We may not have had an IPOB, for all I care. So if we somehow we are lucky, there is a change of heart, and the president decides to make peace with everyone, create room for a form of national dialogue, a peace meeting of sorts, where each group in the country that is aggrieved can table their grievances. Maybe we will have this problem will be over. I need this. So maybe this country will have a respite. So that is how we continue.
Okay, sir. That's almost like an impossible task for General Muhammadu Buhari to change at this time. But that's just an opinion. Let's move straight into.
He has just about a year plus left.
And it's not from his body language. There's nothing to suggest that he's willing to change tactics in the nearest future.
Nothing.
So let's move to Yoruba Nation. You are, if I can put it that, a supporter of Yoruba Nation. However,
yes,
there might be, the context might be different, because people that are agitating for Yoruba freedom, some are agitating for restructuring, where the Yoruba states will be able to have liberty with their own resources, and will just be, they will have like state police, some state-owned security outfits. They'll be able to manage their resources. So that's one set, which is states in Nigeria. We have other ones that are talking about restructuring, which is similar to what we have, like for instance, in Scotland, where we have regions, ethnic defined regions. You know, like we have Scotland, we have England, we have Wales, and we have the Northern Ireland. So those are ethnic nations within the United Kingdom. So some are calling for a restructuring like that, while some are even saying we don't even want to belong to Nigeria. We don't even want to have anything to do with Nigeria. We just want to be our own as a nation. So, your own context of support for Yoruba Nation, could you please share what your own context is?
Well, I used to be part of the restructuring advocacy because I was one of those who drafted the APC manifesto. And I know that the core element of that manifesto is restructuring. And it was on the basis of that, the APC as a party, when the president refused to touch that particular aspect of the party's manifesto, the APC set up a committee led by the Kaduna State Governor, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, and it produced a report after touring the country and collating views from various zones and states. And it did a beautiful job of producing a summary of this of its report. It's available online. The APC through report of the APC Committee on True Federalism. That was how it started, true federalism, not restructuring. President Buhari refused to touch that. And restructuring is about liberalizing this stranglehold in Abuja upon the constituents of this country. But rather than allowing any form of liberalization, President Buhari decided to wittingly or unwittingly intensify the stranglehold through lopsided appointments, through sectional interventions in crisis, a situation where you said those who have collected arms licenses to own guns, you submit it, while those in the bush who never got any license for their guns are busy raiding. And a situation where you daily terrorize your people by talking of Ruga, you want to take their lands. And when people shouted against Ruga, you came back and said that you are going to reclaim grazing routes. And the state government told you they don't have any grazing routes anymore. You said you are going to take it in so number of states. You know, a situation that made people to wonder that are we now captured? Are we now conquered, or what is actually happening? Is this president a conqueror? Is he another Usman Danfodio? Or is he somebody that we elected, really? You know, it was at that point that some sections of our society felt it was high time we embarked on a campaign of self-determination, because we are being killed our livelihood in our rural communities are being destroyed. And those who are doing these killings are being pampered, they are being protected, they are being shielded, they are being harmed. Of Iskilu Wakilu, the notorious Fulani terrorists in the Ibarapazis. He's been there, policemen never went to harass or to arrest him. Then when OPC deployed its men to get him arrested and they took him to the police, what happened? They were incarcerated for doing a good job of helping to protect the public from harm. And these were things that made people to think it was high time. It is high time we got our own country. We can't coexist with these people. We can't live in peace with them. These people feel that they have conquered us, and we cannot accept that. They never conquered us. It was the British that merged us with them. The Yoruba people will tell you the Fulani army was routed in Oshogbo, and it was a very bloody routing that they will never forget. So they never really conquered Yoruba land. And how will they now be riding roughshod over us? It is not going to be at our own detriment that we are going to coexist with them in one country. If they only want to be our master, then we had better opt out of the Nigerian so-called contraption. That was when Yoruba people joined this self-determination agitation. Hitherto, it was only the Biafrans that were on that path, and some militants in the Niger Delta who were also talking of Niger Delta Republic. But Yoruba land had never in the past thought of a breakup, but it was the shenanigans of the Buhari administration that created this agitation. And it is rather unfortunate that the president and his handlers are always talking in a self-righteous manner, as if they are the best thing that ever happened to Nigeria, and that all these complaints are mere lies and are without basis. That is the most unfortunate part of it, and that is the aspect that gives me a lot of troubled heart, that gives me a lot of cause for worry. How can so much damage be done, and then the person that's deciding over the damaging is self-righteous and vainglorious and is so blessed with all kinds of sycophants who see everything as normal and okay, and the people that are complaining are the ones that are being attacked and disparaged. They are the ones being labeled secessionists, separatists, unpatriotic people, enemies of Nigeria and what have you. It's so saddening, as if they have a higher stake in Nigeria than us. What makes Nigeria? Is it not we and them that make up Nigeria? If we are complaining that we are not happy, we are not better served, and rather than accept your tyranny and your oppression, we will want to be on our own. How does that offend anybody? If we say we don't want to be part of your shenanigans, why should that be a problem to you? So this is where we are. And today, in Yoruba land, a lot of forces have been unleashed in the direction of Yoruba nation, because people are tired and fed up. And the forces are home and abroad. Sorry, we just have light off. Inverter will soon be on, so that you can see my face. That's why I'm
All
trying
right.
to improvise.
Okay.
I'm sure somebody will go and put on the inverter. So this is Nigeria for you. And
All right.
yeah, so the agitation will not go away unless people are made to see the reason not to stop agitating. And I want to tell you that Nigeria can never be the same again. If this country is going to be one continually and no and make progress, everybody will be happy. Then the basis of the Nigerian Union will have to be renegotiated. It has to be renegotiated because people cannot just cope with the level of perpetrated with the power over concentrated in Abuja. People will want to have 2023 election that is being talked about, that is dominating the arena in Nigeria now as if all is well. I have been making a plea to our people in the Yoruba nation movement that rather than boycott that election, we should prepare to participate in it because there is no guarantee at the moment that the Yoruba nation, which we desire, will have become a reality before 2023. And to me, it doesn't seem right to abdicate the sin to those who don't believe in this quest, particularly among ourselves. There are Yoruba people favored by the status quo who don't see any sense in the Yoruba nation agitation. We've seen somebody like that, even a serving minister who said the Yoruba nation agitators are fools. I've never seen anything more uncouth than that kind of loose rant by somebody who should put himself in a place of respect. He said they are fools, as if the people agitating not better educated than him. Professor Banji Akintoye, who is the leader of the Yoruba Nation movement, is a robustly and eminently respected professor emeritus of African history who had seen it all. He was there with Papa Awolowo before independence. He was a youth member of the Action Group. He had been a senator. When being a senator had meaning in the Second Republic. He represented the Ekitiazis under the defunct, the old Ondo State in the Senate in Lagos. And he has written a lot about this country and about the history of the Yoruba and the African people. And when he's talking, you see that is an epitome of knowledge and a model of, articulation. And then somebody who is more or less a semi-literate opened his mouth and said, those agitating for Yoruba nation are fools because he's been privileged, despite of his intellectual limitation, to have held one position or in government or the other. So the agitation will not go away. You are in the diaspora, you know how many of you believe in Yoruba nation. It is across the board. And we have seen unprecedented agitation protests across Western capitals, US, New York, Washington, D.C., in Canada, Toronto, etc., Ottawa. You go to UK, you cannot count the number of protests on the street of London, Germany, Paris, Pretoria in South Africa, even Bangladesh. I've seen footages of Yoruba national agitators in Bangladesh, in Brazil, etc., etc. So it's something that has to be addressed. It's not something that is going to go away. It cannot go away. It cannot be a zero-sum issue whereby you hope that people will forget just because you are refusing to accede to their demand. So back to the issue of the 2023 election, I am of the view that the Yoruba Nation movement should en masse move into the political space, at least within Yoruba land, and ensure that those who believe in this vision are the ones that are elected as governors, senators, House of Rep members, and into the state houses of legislature. And if that is successfully done, those people will then carry the agitation to a higher pedestal. It's not going to be a question of just some group of people, as they try to paint the movement, who are trying to be non-conformist, agitating on the streets. If you say you just, well, by the time you know that the governors are meeting, and it's all the entire governors of the Yoruba states that are meeting for a roadmap to expand the horizon of Yoruba nation, to collectively see how the powers that have been hijacked to Abuja are returned to Abuja. Look at the way we got Amotekun.
Yes.
It wasn't because Abuja wanted it, but the governors who read the horizon that they were about to be rendered illegitimate by the groundswell of demand for self-help in terms of security. That was why they acceded to the agitation for Amotekun. The federal government did everything within its power to ensure that it did not see the light of day. The Attorney General and Minister of Justice said it was an illegal outfit. The Inspector General of Police at the time also spoke in a similar vein. They said they already had a plan for what they call community policing, which was just mere rhetoric that doesn't have any substance. Even till date, as we talk, they were just scared that, oh, if we allow these people to arm themselves and protect their territory, maybe this kind of oppression that we are perpetrating will no longer be possible. Maybe we'll no longer be able to exploit and cheat them. Maybe we'll no longer be able to make them fearful, their leaders fearful, when their governors can deploy well-armed police formation to protect its jurisdiction. You know, these are the way they are thinking. But at least we ensure that the various houses of assembly in the Yoruba states passed the Amotekun bill into law. And even though today we learned that Abuja is not allowed as they should, they are not permitting them licenses, whereas individuals have licenses to carry guns. But the point has been made that if we act collectively, a lot can be achieved in terms of our freedom, in terms of our powers of self-determination to decide what the security of our own space, what it should be, to decide how to run our own economy. So I see unity to, in fact, take nation agitation to a higher pedestal. But people seems not to understand my perspective. I'm a strategist. I was head of international relations and strategic studies department for 7 years. I resigned on my own, that I've had enough. And I teach in a number of our military colleges. I teach strategy, even at Commander and Staff College. When this counter-terrorism efforts began and the Nigerian military was being retrained in asymmetric warfare, I was one of those that were invited to Commander and Staff College, Yaji, to help out in 2012. So if I'm giving you the benefit of my knowledge that, look, this movement is great, this movement is grand, this movement is a movement indeed. Deploy its force, deploy its power into capturing the seats of power in the Yoruba states, in the houses of assembly in Yoruba land, and the available seats to senators and reps from Yoruba land in the National Assembly. You should take a second look at what I'm telling you, because it doesn't make sense that you will boycott an election that, whether you boycott or you don't boycott, when you boycott, you just make it easier for them to foist the kind of people that are anti-Yoruba on you, because that is what who are oppressing us are really looking forward to. If you do not know, from my privileged position, I can tell you they really, really get happy and excited about that, your threat of boycott, that you are going to boycott. They want you to boycott so that those that they will help, they will foist on you, we owe their loyalty to them. That after all, our people did not even want us to get here. If not for Abuja, we wouldn't have become governors, we wouldn't have become senators, we wouldn't have become House of Rep members. And it would then be a double jeopardy for you when your own very people are the ones that are now used to suppress your agitation. Look at what happened in Lagos. The killing, the bloody, when the rally that became bloody, was it not on July 3rd or so? It was made so because our own people running the show in that state deployed the police to the streets to make the agitation, to make the rally, a peaceful rally, impossible. So you don't need to have privilege to any intelligence report to know that the state was responsible for that largely, because the state police command is under the authority of the state governor. At least he wouldn't be on the street in that manner with his men if the state governor had come out to say, no, we are permitting this peaceful rally. It is the right of Nigerians to do peaceful protest. I don't see the police commissioner in Lagos coming out to engage in that show of shame. So that is an indication that if you don't have people that are sympathetic to your cause in power, you are going to have a bloody nose every now and then. And that is why I'm warning that those who are saying we should boycott that election should have a second thought. Because if you boycott, people will get elected. Those politicians that are not buying our idea of a Yoruba nation, they are protecting the status quo because the status quo gives them power, it gives them empowerment, they are rich at our expense, and they will do everything possible to protect it. And going forward, they are not going to see eyeball to eyeball with you. And the worst part of it is that they are even going to redouble their effort in dealing with you. Look, how would it have sounded if when Igboho was arrested, the governors in the Southwest, the senators in the Southwest, all come out to denounce his arrest and say that he has been operating within Yoruba land, is not known to be a criminal. The state governors openly say, we are the chief security officers of our state. We do not find this man to be engaged in any unlawful thing. He's not a terrorist, he's not a criminal, and we take exception to any attempt to criminalize him or to deny him his rights. Will he be in the detention in Benin Republic, as is the case today? Will the narrative not be different? So we need to be very, very smart. It only sounds, the only argument they give is that if we are saying that the 1999 Constitution has expired by our constitutional force major that we declared, then why should we give further recognition to that constitution by participating in an election? I want to ask them one question. The 1999 Constitution has expired, and every governmental authority arising therefrom are not to be recognized. But do you pay taxes? Do you pay your taxes if you are living in Nigeria? The answer is yes. So if you are still paying taxes to that authority and you are saying you don't want to be involved in determining who occupies that position of authority, but you cannot stop yourself from paying taxes to the same authority, then you are being clever by half. That is,
right.
is the way I see it. You don't believe in electing a governor and you pay your tax in 2023, even right now. You don't recognize the 1999 Constitution, but we are all paying taxes to that government. Personal income tax. What greater recognition can you give to a government? That is even greater than not voting. You may decide not to vote. In America, some people don't bother to vote. It's not a crime. And it doesn't mean that those who vote will not elect a government. But whether you vote or you don't vote, you cannot risk. You will face the music. But you are paying taxes, and you say you don't want to be involved. I don't, as a strategist, this game, who understood liberation as it has been, as it has played out in various countries of the world, telling you you are making a big mistake. You ought to capitalize on the forces of mobilized, very strong political forces in this Yoruba nation movement. Deploy them to take over the political space in Yoruba land. Take that into your hand first. Look at Catalonia. The Catalonians in Spain, is it not the same thing they're agitating for? But the last election, did they boycott it? This time around, they're wiser. They participated fully, and they captured a lot of seats, and they've taken their agitation right into the heart of the parliament, not just on the streets. It has acquired greater fervor and strength, because you cannot go and just be arresting parliamentarians because they are agitating for Catalonian state. It's not possible, because they are legitimately elected. I think I've said enough on this, my brother.
Yes, thank you very much. Close to, we'll tell about just going to about an hour and a half. Thank you very much, and I think your points, which I think is what some also shared, is that there should, so far there's going to be an election, the Yoruba people should participate by, just like you said, putting those people who believed in the Yoruba freedom in position. However, some of the challenges that people have raised is that how would they convince these politicians that most of the politicians have been in the system, they've benefited from the system, and anything that would disrupt the system, they would not want to partake in it, except they are sure that on the other side of the system, they will be taken care of as well. So, in your view and as a strategist, how do we convince these politicians?
Well, we got it wrong by thinking it is these politicians that will help us. When the killings in Yoruba land began, it wasn't the politicians that raised the alarm. Our senators maintained cemetery-grade silence. Our House of Rep members, same thing. Our governors, they kept quiet like they were dead already and they were fit for nothing. That was how non-state actors like Igboho, Sunday Igboho, Professor Banji Akintoye, and the rest of them entered into the fray. Those people wouldn't have been talking. They wouldn't have gained prominence if our governors, our senators, our House of Rep have been at the forefront of the effort to protect us, to secure our homeland. But because they failed to do that, that was how these non-state actors intervened to bail the cat. Look at Sunday Igboho, the people of Igangan, they actually sent an SOS to him to come and save their soul.
Yes.
So are these the same politicians you are talking about? That how do we convince them to believe in Yoruba nation agitation or movement? I don't think that is a logical way of looking at this, because it doesn't add up at all. I'm talking of a change of paradigm. Getting people who don't necessarily, who are not politicians in the traditional sense of the rotten concept in Nigeria of being a politician, people that believe in Yoruba, the sanctity of Yoruba lives, people that believe in the protection of the territorial integrity of Yoruba land, people that believe in the well-being of the Yoruba person. These are the people that I'm talking about, that we should get them to represent us in these various elective positions. And if we agree that that is a path to follow, then we can then also decide what party are we going to use. There are no. Let's go into this one. MRs, SDP, for instance, is there. It's still a registered party. We can move into it MRs and dominate from out of power. These people that are operating like they are agents of some colonial authority in Abuja, we'll get all of them out of their seats. We are a nation of over 60 million people. It's already clear that the people, the next election should be a vote of no confidence in the existing political class in Yoruba land. They have not served us well. They have been a great disservice to us. So when I'm talking about participating in the coming election, I'm not talking about you participating to go and legitimize their irresponsibility. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm actually talking about checkmating them, getting them out of the scene because they are not fit for purpose. We wouldn't be suffering like this. We wouldn't be suffering this magnitude of oppression if they had been alive to their responsibilities.
You're very right, Professor.
There wouldn't have been an Akintoye. If our governors had been alive to their responsibility, there wouldn't have been an Igboho. If our senators had been alive to their responsibilities, they have not represented us well.
Okay.
So that is it. Possible.
Okay.
To even show by if we can mobilize ourselves in Yoruba land and the Biafran agitators do likewise, the Niger Delta agitators do likewise in the Niger, and the Middle Belt people that are also suffering oppression, and the liberal section no matter how small they are, in the Northeast and Northwest, there are some oases of liberty, even in those areas that are not part of the Hausa Fulani Islamic oligarchy, that if we all can get those who believe it's assembly and we are able to produce a president that shares the same vision by pulling our strengths together, the entire South and the Middle Belt and some liberal section of, if we are of the Northeast and Northwest, we can actually not just amend the 1999 Constitution, we can actually replace that Constitution with a new Constitution. Because all is that the new Constitution that we have, that the way that is recognized as a nation within the United Kingdom, the Union of the UK, the way Ireland, the way Wales and England are operating, I am the first person to start advocating along the UK model.
Right.
It is the model I put forward for the coming election, that we can actually fully independent Yoruba nation by adopting the UK model and by participating in the election to elect those who will make that a reality. If we can get the entire South and the Middle Belt and some liberal section of the Northeast and Northwest to operate, to elect a president in common that is coming to implement a confederacy agenda, then at the end of the day, Yoruba land can call itself a Yoruba nation within the Nigerian Confederacy. We can have our flag, we can have our national anthem, have our own currency. As Scotland has its own national currency, Ireland and the Bank of England also produces the British pounds. So we can then have a Yoruba nation, Central Bank of Yoruba nation. It will just be a very loose union. We will have our own independent police force. We can send our own football team to the World Cup, and the glory that they will bring will be to the Yoruba nation. Just as England goes to World Cup, and Scotland goes to World Cup, and Ireland goes to World Cup. So that is what I think we can do. A confederal constitution will have been ready. And once we know we have the numbers in the National Assembly and in the state houses of assembly, the two-thirds required in the National Assembly, in the two chambers of the National Assembly and the state houses of assembly, it's just a question of yes or no vote. Even in the National Assembly, you just vote to say yes or no to the adoption, to the replacement of the 1999 Constitution with a confederal constitution that gives national autonomy to Yoruba nation, to Biafra nation, to Niger Delta nation or federation or whatever they want to call themselves, to a Middle Belt federation or whatever they choose to adopt, then it will be automatic. It's just to say yes for that replacement or no. And if we have done our own work well and we are able to get yes in the majority, the required quantum of two-thirds, then without shedding of blood, without gunshot, we will have executed a democratic revolution. And then in the Confederal Constitution, there will be a clause that any of the nations, by conducting a referendum within its territory, can decide to opt out of the Confederation altogether. Just as it is the case with the UK Confederacy. If there is Scotland decides to organize a referendum tomorrow and the majority says leave, that is the end of the United Kingdom.
Sure. Yes.
And if Ireland does the same thing, that will be the end. So that will also be there. So that whatever few percentage of things we decide to do in common, everybody will know that if we mess up, if any of us mess up, we can actually, those who feel aggrieved and feel that they are not well served again can actually opt out. Then people will behave themselves. So these are the things, but the least I expect from our participation will be to at least secure our own homeland by getting those who believe in our aspirations to be in power. And if we achieve that, and they now see the favor that our agitation for Yoruba nation now acquires, that our governors are speaking in that respect, they are making diplomatic shuttles globally, they are forging a common security architecture for us, they are taking enacting common laws and all the rest of it that may not necessarily be what Abuja wants, then I can tell you that the other zones will take a cue from us. They will say this is the way to go next time. Because even the Amotekun that we did had a kind of spiral effect. The South-South governors have met to start a similar thing. The Southeast governors have met to do a similar thing. So that is the effect. We are supposed to be space setters. We Yorubas, from colonial era, we have been pace setters. But it seems we have lost it. We need to regain. The freedom for Nigeria, the struggle for Nigeria's independence was fought in Yoruba land. The agitation was between Lagos and Igbinedon axis, mainly. It was fought in Yoruba land. The agitation against military tyranny in Nigeria has always been in Yoruba land. Pro-democracy movement has been in Yoruba land. Nobody agitated in Kano or in Enugu for the military to leave power. It was Yoruba people that led it, with a sprinkle of elite from other parts of Nigeria, domiciled in Lagos and Igbinedon axis. So if we want a better nation, we started the restructuring campaign. We should take it to the next level. We are pace setters. The freedom of other oppressed people in Nigeria, it depends on what we do. It depends on what we do. And ultimately, the liberation of the black race will depend on what we do. Ultimately, because we are pace setters and we are the most educated group, black group in the world. In America, they said the most educated immigrant group are Nigerians. Out of those immigrant groups that they are talking about, I teach at East Carolina University in US, so I go in and out of US every now and then. I know that the majority of those Nigerian immigrant groups that they are talking about are Yorubas. In England, the same thing. In the United Kingdom, the same thing as a whole. So if we have intellectual power, and that is what rules the world today. If we harness it properly, we will liberate ourselves and liberate other people that are under oppression and shackles in Nigeria. We must see the need to participate in this coming election on our own terms. On our own terms. That's what I'm saying. We shouldn't leave this space for charlatans that are going to further impoverish us, take our taxes and do whatever they like with it, and are not accountable for us, and will unleash the police on our children when they come out for answers or whatever, that will say the military should come and deal with these children. That is what you get when you put renegades in power in your own space. The president will stay there, aloof in Abuja, and say, "Oh, mi ò sí ńbẹ̀ o. Governor yín ló ní kí military intervene o. Governor yín ló ní kí police kó pa àwọn ọmọ yín o. Kì í ṣàwa o. Only chief security officer of the state o. Mi ò lọ́wọ́ ńbẹ̀ o." And then what do we say?
Right. Thank you very much, Professor Femi Olufunmilade. I mean, I promise our people that it's going to be packed. And of course, I believe that actually some of the points you've brought in, which is quite very, very important, because I know that the issue about the 2023 election is extremely important. And while we have people saying that, no, we are not going to take part, other people are saying you need to take part. And you've actually make it clear that if people don't participate, if the masses or the Yoruba people failed to participate, people that are not in support of Yoruba agitation for freedom will be elected into place, and they will continue business as usual. Um, so I think the area that is left now will be about awareness. And I won't take much of your time. This will be our last question. Now, we know that when we're talking about people, and just you are saying that if we can move a mass into a political party, I think it's something I've suggested also in the past, that if people can move a mass there and then get our people elected. Now, coming to the area of awareness, if our people don't know about this, like you rightly said, we have stretching to about 60 million. And how do we get across to these people? How do we create awareness to let our people know that this time we need to actually be at the front part of the game to decide what happens in Nigeria? How do we reach those people, especially people that are in the market, people that are in the transport business? Because I think quite a lot of them usually take place in election, either by their own volition or people that are drafted there by politicians.
Now, I want to be practical. If I start giving you an advice or whatever, it will not work. What I need to let you know that I am coordinating that already. I am coordinating that. I will give you my email. Anybody who wants to reach out to me, who believe in this, I've held a meeting already, and other meetings will still be held. My email is femiology@gmail.com. Just my name, Femi. You add OLOGY, femiology@gmail.com. FEMIOLOGY@gmail.com. Femiology is just my name that you add ology to. That is it. That is my email. If you are interested in the political movement of the Yoruba nation, then contact me. I want you to know that there is no indigenous group that have fought for self-determination in contemporary times without having a political arm. Are you talking of even Ireland? There's Sinn Féin. That's their political arm. The Irish people, they have their political party too. And I just mentioned Catalonia, where they contested election, the self-determination agitators there. So it is not, even ANC in South Africa, they used to operate with a military wing called Umkhonto we Sizwe. But they have the political wing called the African National Congress. And that was when eventually apartheid was to be dismantled. It was that political wing that actually constituted the platform on which Mandela contested the election and became president. So if you are agitating and you don't have a political platform, you are so narrow in your thinking because you are not robustly educated on how these things are done. And you say, no, we are not going to participate. You are going to be in a very long drawn struggle, a struggle that may not end in your lifetime. And it does happen like that. If you go to places like Colombia, you discover that the FARC rebels have been there agitating and then militarizing for a long time, for over 50 years. And it's only lately that they were getting some of their demands met because they eventually had to develop a robust political wing. So we need that. We need that. It's not just militancy and street protest. So we need a political wing. And if you want to be part of that, contact me. And to those who may say, oh, this man maybe is a sellout. Well, I'm assuring you, I am not a sellout. I'm only being a realist and a strategist that I am, the birth of Yoruba Nation agitation was where I was seated with Professor Banji Akintoye. That was in September 2019, in the office of Professor Anthony Killer in Lagos. That was where we met and we reviewed the situation in Yoruba land, and we decided that after much intellectual gymnastics, we came to the conclusion that we needed a Yoruba nation, and that should be our goal. We wanted our own space where we can grow and develop at our own pace. And it was that day we established the Yoruba World Congress, where I was appointed advisor on strategy. And Professor Banji Akintoye, our revered leader, became the president of the organization. And it has YWC has metamorphosed over time into Ilana Omo Oduduwa. So I was there from the beginning, and a number of activities that we embarked upon were things that I proposed. So if I'm telling you today that we need to bombard the political space en masse, some of you that are abroad there in America that are organizing rally for Yoruba Nation and all that, it's high time some of you came home and contest to be our governor, contest to be our senator. If we all agree that this is the path to follow, we will get a platform that will make it easier for you, not where they will tell you to go and bring your life savings to contest an election. Since you want to serve your fatherland, we will have a platform that will not tax you too much. So I'm not talking about politicians. I'm not speaking for politicians as you know them. The traditional politicians who have no other job than to move from one political office to another, and they are defenders of the status quo. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about us who believe, including myself. If I'm called upon to that, you must contest yourself. I will not shrink back, but I want to see so many other people joining me to also contest, so that I won't be a lone ranger. That is the way it will work, because there are so many positions to be filled. State houses of assembly need legislators in each of our states, our reps to the House of Representatives, our senators, our governors. And eventually it will include our local government chairmen. So it is not about promoting any one person's ambition under the cover of Yoruba agitation. No, it is a message to you, to me, and to every one of us. The people that are being called upon to contest in the coming election are not people outside this movement. It's not so. There are people within this movement that we know that they have stuck their neck out. People that have been on the street, people that are speaking out, people that have contributed money, people that have done one thing or the other, people that have given media platforms like your own to people to hear for people to hear their views. Those are the people. And we are never short of good materials.
Definitely. Right. Thank you very much, Professor Femi Olufunmilade. Professor Femi is the political scientist, as I've mentioned earlier, and currently partner director of Buratai Center for Contemporary Security Affairs, Igbinedon University, Okada, Edo State. You've heard straight from him his experience and his own activities in the Yoruba Nation movement, and his proposal that we should not shy away, we should not abandon our responsibilities to elect those that will serve the benefits of the Yoruba people in the next election. Of course, the Osun State election is coming soon, so I think, like they will say, it's teaching time saves nine. So you've had him, and of course, we've got his email right on if you want to contact him, and that is femiology@gmail.com. The purpose of that is helping to create awareness about the next step, the way forward for the Yoruba nation. And is also mentioned about the way things are done in other countries where we have ethnic nationalities, like we have in the United Kingdom, where you have the Scotland, you've got Wales, you've got Northern Ireland and England. They are separate nations, but they came together to be to be a nation or country of nations. And of course, if you've been following the news, Scotland had a referendum in 2014 where majority of the people voted to stay. Scotland is also pushing for another referendum. And in the past 1 to 2 weeks, Wales have also started talking about independence or getting more devolved power from the central government. So thank you very much for joining us today, Professor.
Thank you, sir.
We've actually benefited a lot from your wealth of experience, and we hope to have you. We wish you success in your movement. Of course, we are also going to direct people to get in touch with you about that movement, because like we said, and some of the meetings that I've had the benefit of attending, that even if our roots are different, if they are not the same, we've got to a point where any route that is being proposed for liberation of Yoruba, we should give it backing, so that just like they will say that àìrìn papọ̀ òní ń kó ìyà jẹ ọmọ ejò, tí òjòlá bá wà níwájú tí paramọ́lẹ̀ tẹ̀lé, kò sọ́dẹ tó máa dúró tó bá rí wọn. So thank you very much for coming on, and our good regards to your family. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you.
Have a great time. It's my privilege and pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bye for now. Right, our viewers, thank you for staying on with us. You know, we're always here on Saturdays and Sundays. You've listened to Professor Femi Olufunmilade. Of course, next Sunday, your usual guests, that is Alagba Femi Odede, you will be right back here with the Yoruba Referendum Committee. It's so great that many people are rising today to speak about Yoruba nation and freedom. People are getting off from just agitating, from just activism. People are actually taking action to ensure that Yoruba does not remain the same again. And remember, just like Professor Femi has just said, if Yoruba is able to free itself from the stranglehold of Nigeria's system, many other minor ethnic nationalities will also be delivered. Remember when he talked about the agitation for independence, the agitation for the military to leave, it's always happened in Yoruba land. And for now, with Yoruba agitation, we're hoping that Nigeria will change from what it is now with a system that's actually strangled other ethnic nationality to one where each ethnic community, ethnic nationality will be able to move on its own pace without being pushed nor being dragged back. I remain yours, Samuel Oludare Jerokun, and I'll be right on with you next Sunday. But remember, 3 p.m. on Saturday, we will be covering the live tour here in Paisley, Scotland. Paisley is just some few miles from Glasgow. And there's a Discover Africa trail. We will be following the families and children that will be going on that trail to discover more about Africa. So until then, I remain yours. Bye for now.